Hey Vikings fans, what's up? Skol Nation, buckle up, because the Minnesota Vikings offseason just started, and already the tension is sky high. There's a storm forming behind the scenes, and it has one very familiar name at the center of it. Brian Flores. Yes, that Brian Flores. From the very first day of the offseason, we all knew this wouldn't be easy. When you build one of the best defenses in the entire NFL, the rest of the league starts watching closely. And now, that looming fear is right in front of us. The possible loss of our defensive mastermind. This isn't just another coaching rumor floating around social media. This is real, this is happening, and it could reshape the future of the Minnesota Vikings faster than we expect. The question is simple but terrifying. Can the Vikings keep Brian Flores? So stay with me, because this story has twists, power plays, and pressure coming from every direction. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why this situation could define the Vikings' entire offseason. Brian Flores' contract with the Vikings is set to expire in January, and that detail alone changes everything. Once that contract is up, Flores is free to explore opportunities anywhere in the league. Head coach jobs, defensive coordinator roles, you name it. For Flores, this is a moment of leverage and opportunity. For the Minnesota Vikings, it's a waiting game filled with anxiety. Because when a coach delivers elite results, patience becomes a luxury you don't really have. Right now, Flores isn't just admired in Minnesota. He's respected league-wide. Front offices know what he did with this defense, and they know how quickly he turned talent into production. And that's why Vikings fans are holding their breath. Because once January hits, the phone lines around Brian Flores are going to light up. One of the biggest headlines already shaking Vikings news is Flores' upcoming interview with the Baltimore Ravens. That's right, a head coach interview. Not a coordinator role, but the big chair. This is where things get serious. When a defensive coordinator is interviewing for head coach positions, it means he's no longer just a rising name. He's a priority target. For the Vikings, this creates immediate pressure. You can't negotiate freely when another franchise might hand your coach the keys to the entire organization. And if Flores impresses in that interview, the dominoes could start falling very quickly. One job offer is all it takes to change everything. NFL insider Tom Pelissero added even more fuel to the fire with his recent comments. Speaking on Minnesota's KFX-NFM, Pelissero didn't sugarcoat the situation at all. According to him, a contract extension with the Vikings is not on the front burner for Brian Flores right now. Let that sink in. Not a priority. Not urgent. Not the main focus. Pelissero made it clear that Flores is focused on potential head coaching opportunities first. Only after that process plays out will anything else come into the picture. For Vikings fans, that's unsettling. Because it means the Minnesota Vikings are waiting, while the rest of the league is evaluating and circling. This waiting period might be the most dangerous part for the Vikings. Early in the offseason, teams are focused on hiring head coaches and general managers. Coordinators usually come later, but that delay doesn't help Minnesota. In fact, it makes things worse. Because if Flores doesn't land a head coaching job immediately, he becomes the hottest defensive coordinator on the market. Once his contract officially expires, every team needing a defensive leader will be calling. And they won't be shy about throwing money and power on the table. That's when things can spiral fast. Because the Vikings won't be negotiating in silence anymore. They'll be competing. And bidding wars rarely favor teams trying to hold on rather than teams trying to steal talent. Now let's talk about why this matters so much. The Minnesota Vikings defense in 2025 was elite. Not good. Not solid. Elite. Despite an offense that struggled to find consistency, the Vikings defense carried this team week after week. They ranked third in total defense, allowing just 282.6 yards per game. They were second in pass defense, giving up only 158.5 yards per game. That's lockdown football in a passing league. And they finished seventh in points allowed per game at just 19.6. Those numbers aren't accidental. That's Brian Flores' fingerprint all over this defense. This is why Minnesota knows it can't afford to lose him. Flores didn't just improve the defense. He transformed it. Players looked faster, smarter, more aggressive. The scheme confused quarterbacks and forced mistakes at critical moments. When you find a coach who unlocks that kind of performance, you do everything you can to keep him. But timing matters. And right now, the Vikings are stuck waiting for the head coach market to settle before they can make their move. If Flores doesn't get hired as a head coach, that's when Minnesota can finally push hard. That's when negotiations get serious. But by then, other teams will be involved. And that's the nightmare scenario. One team in particular should have every Vikings fan nervous. The Dallas Cowboys. Dallas is already showing interest in the Minnesota coaching staff. They've interviewed Vikings defensive backs coach Durant Jones. And that tells you everything you need to know. They see the value. They see the results. And they see an opportunity. If the Cowboys decide to go all in on Brian Flores, the Vikings could be facing an impossible decision. Minnesota can't save everyone. Losing Durant Jones would hurt. Losing Brian Flores would be devastating. This is where the next few weeks become critical. The Vikings front office has to be ready for anything. Every interview, every rumor, every insider report matters. Because the margin for error is razor thin. One wrong move, one slow response, and this defense could lose its architect. And for a team trying to stay competitive, that's a massive risk. So Vikings fans, let me ask you this. Do you think Minnesota should do whatever it takes to keep Brian Flores? Should they break the bank? Offer long-term security? Or is this just the reality of success in the NFL? Drop your thoughts in the comments because this conversation is just getting started. No matter how this plays out, one thing is clear. The Minnesota Vikings are entering one of the most stressful offseasons in recent memory. The defense is elite. The league knows it. And now the fight to keep it together has officially begun. If you want to stay updated with all the latest Minnesota Vikings news, rumors, and breaking updates, make sure you're locked in right here. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with every Vikings fan you know. Skol Nation, we're in for a wild ride.